and I want multiple L's, more than I ever experienced in high school. And there were a lot. But I want more now than ever. So if you haven't heard, the Utah Jazz just traded for Jaren Jackson Jr. And before I explain everything, I just want to say that this is the biggest trade in Jazz history since Jeff Hornacek. And we know what happened with Hornacek and that Jazz team. Now, this Jazz team is not with an MVP player like Karl Malone and John Stockton, but they are on the rise. They have a lot of young talent, and this is going to change the team for a long time. Now, let's get into the trade. So, according to Shams Charania, the Utah Jazz traded for Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, Jock Landale, and Vince Williams Jr. Obviously, Jaren Jackson Jr. is the big name in the trade and the one to be excited about. These other three names are interesting, probably Vince Williams the most because he's got size and length and defense, but Utah did this for Jaren Jackson Jr. It's massive. Utah then sends to the Memphis Grizzlies Walter Clayton Jr., Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, George Niang, and 3 future first-round picks, according to Shams Charania. Now, the players that they're trading, it's a whole lot of not much. Walter Clayton Jr. is probably the biggest prize there. He's shown some signs. It's been an up-and-down season. He's had some moments where he's been really nice. Is he going to be anything more than maybe a backup, high-level backup guard in the league? Probably not. If he becomes something more, then people can come back and comment on the video. Whatever. Taylor Hendricks coming off a catastrophic injury. I feel bad for him. Jazz fans have been rooting for him like crazy, and the reality is it has gone very badly this year. He has not looked right. He looks slow. Confidence in him is just gone. It's not been great. And so getting him in the trade as an asset early actually is a very smart thing for the Jazz. I hope Taylor Hendricks figures it out and can become a quality player for the Grizzlies. But from what we've seen this year, it's not looking super likely. At the very least, it's a high upside swing for the Grizzlies on a player that has really struggled this year post-injury. And yeah, so Clayton Jr., Taylor Hendricks are the big prizes in terms of the players they get. But Grizzlies fans are probably going to be a little more excited about the picks. Now, if you're a Jazz fan looking at these picks, what are they? Well, these picks include the 2027 first-round pick. Let's see, the most favorable between Cleveland, Minnesota, and Utah. If you'll remember, Utah gets the best of those picks. That now goes to the Grizzlies. Utah will get the second best pick now of those 3. So Memphis gets the best. And what's nice for Memphis is that's not one of their own picks. So they're kind of doing what the Utah Jazz did. They get picks that are from other teams. If the Grizzlies in the future want to trade that, it's a nice asset to trade because you don't have to give up your own pick. That pick likely at best is mid-first round unless one of those 3 teams has catastrophic injuries. But Utah's going to be better next year and in 2027. So we know what Minnesota is doing. Looks like they're trying to trade for Giannis, but at worst they have Anthony Edwards. And then Cleveland, we'll see what they do. Donovan Mitchell and company are still a solid team, and they're in the Eastern Conference. They're my bet for the worst team of those 3 in 2027. We'll see. That pick may be good, but most likely probably mid-first round or later. They also get the Lakers 2027 first-round pick from the Jazz. That pick is top 4 protected. I actually think that pick got a little worse with the news that LeBron James is likely not going to be in LA next year. It's going to give a ton of cap space to the Lakers to fill their roster with good talent. And the Lakers are one of the only teams in the league where free agency actually matters because players want to go there. And they can just add players to their roster to fit around what Luka Doncic does. Now, Rob Pelinka is a very bad and dumb GM in LA. He may be very bad and dumb, like he is. The last two good things that have happened for the Lakers is Luka Doncic and LeBron James, and both of those things were despite all the poor decision-making he has made. So we'll see. He is on his own now at this point to build a team around Luka Doncic. My guess is that something else just falls into his lap because that's what happens with the Lakers. They're playing this game on easy mode. But you never know. Might be bad. But if the Lakers win the lottery, though, then they wouldn't get that pick. That would stay with the Lakers, obviously. And finally, probably the best pick for the Grizzlies is Phoenix's 2031 first-round pick that Utah traded. Remember, Utah traded the worst of those three picks from Cleveland, Minnesota, and Utah, all three of them, to Phoenix last year for that 2031 unprotected first-round pick. So that is a completely unprotected pick from the Phoenix Suns in 2031. That probably has the most likelihood to be a top pick, but you never know. Phoenix has kind of turned things around this season, and they're a team that always is trying to win games. So we'll see. I think some of the picks that the Suns have given out recently have been pretty good. So that may be a top 10 pick. We'll see. The question is, if you're the Jazz, would anything you get from that pick be better than Jaren Jackson Jr.? I guess we'll find out. If it turns out to be a number one pick in 2031, who knows what 11-year-old kid right now is the one that gets picked? We'll see. But there's not a lot of way to know how good that'll be. Phoenix may be really good. They may be really bad. So congrats to the Grizzlies fans. That's probably your best pick. All right, back to the Jazz. So now Utah loses two veterans in Georges Niang, who hasn't played for Utah this year. Also Kyle Anderson, who quietly has been playing good for Utah and has made this tank a little more difficult. But that's the real question is, will the Jazz continue to tank? Well, according to Tony Jones, the Utah Jazz are definitely going to keep tanking. So Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to join the Jazz. And just like Tony Jones said, get used to gastric distress, baby. Someone just felt a twinge in their ankle, their calf, their back, anywhere on the body. It's like that game where you're buzzing the guy on the hospital table. I ruined that. But you know what I'm saying? Every little piece of Jaren Jackson Jr. is about to get twinged or tweaked or spasmed. He is not going to play very much for Utah at all because Utah still needs to keep their pick this year. It is vital, and that is really one of the elements of what will make this trade successful for the Utah Jazz, is if they keep this pick this year. If Utah does not keep this pick this year, it's actually a problem because they are now going to be over the cap next year. They are going to re-sign Walker Kessler. This is a very good sign that they keep Walker Kessler because Jaren Jackson Jr. plays much better as a 4 playing off of an elite center. Remember, he played off of Steven Adams, and that is when he was at his best. The same thing will be happening with Walker Kessler. With Walker Kessler playing center, Jaren Jackson Jr. can play off of him. He can be a roaming, shot blocking off-ball center. So the rim protection for Utah is about to get massive. And that was the biggest question for this Utah Jazz team, was just the defensive issues. Utah has been number 30 in defense the last 3 seasons. Now, adding Jaren Jackson Jr. next to Walker Kessler immediately makes that Jazz front court just huge. Incredible defensively. Yes, Lauri Markkanen at the 3, I don't think is the best option defensively. That's going to be a little bit of a weakness. Ace Bailey has looked very solid defensively, and he'll be big at the 2. And then we've seen Keontae George improve on defense at the point guard. That's going to be good enough to be, in my opinion, it should be good enough to be a top 10 defense. Will it be top 5? I don't know. Probably not. But like I've said, and I heard Dan Favali talking about this, if you can't be a great defensive team, at least be a big defensive team, and that can make up for a lot of issues. Utah is going to be huge. With their front line, their 2 front court players being over 7 foot. They're 3 in Lauri Markkanen, 7 foot, and then 6'8", 6'9" Ace Bailey at the 2, and then Keontae George. But then back to the pick, Utah is going to be over the cap. They're not going to really be able to add anything onto this roster next season, except for maybe like a mid-level exception. So that means adding one more piece to this puzzle next in this upcoming draft is vital. And if Utah adds a top 4 pick to what they have right now, we're looking at contender status, because then you have so much versatility, depth, youth, and size, and a mix of players entering their prime, a mix of players in their prime like Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. This team is set up to compete now and for years, as long as they keep this pick. And if let's say Utah gets lucky and wins and gets AJ DeBonsa or Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson, if they add even more talent to this team, you're looking at a team that's going to cause absolute havoc and could very likely be top 3 in the West this year with the amount of games they could win. If Utah had Walker Kessler this year and was not actively tanking, there's no question they could be a top 8 team in the West. Now adding Jaren Jackson Jr. that fills the biggest need on the team, and you add more talent and improvement from Ace Bailey, Keontae George, and more young players. Cody Williams looked really nice this last couple months. This Utah Jazz team gets really good, really big, really fast. It's exciting stuff. We're also getting reports that the Utah Jazz are not done. They may have trades set up or things they might want to do, because they could trade someone like Yusuf Nurkic. They could trade Svi Mikhailiuk. Don't forget, Utah's most important player is Svi Mikhailiuk. He's going to get minutes somehow. How this trade goes through and they aren't able to trade Svi Mikhailiuk is beyond me, but they could trade him. I know it'll break Will Hardy's heart. That if Svi Mikhailiuk isn't on the Jazz, they might absolutely lose their minds, but he's still there. He's still there. If any team wants him, they can still make that trade, and that's something that could actually help the tank this year and then also give room for more players next year. Utah has Isaiah Collier that's looking better and better. They have, like I said, Cody Williams. These guys are going to need time. And if you make a big-time draft pick next year, you're going to be having a wealth of riches on this Jazz team. And if you don't believe me on how good this team will be next year, I was looking at, and you've got to give credit to Basketball University on Twitter, but they showed 2 of the best rim protectors in the league in terms of both volume, amount of shots they are contesting at the rim, and the lowest field goal percentages being allowed at the rim is Walker Kessler and Jaren Jackson Jr. They are now on the same team. It is absolutely the perfect pairing for a defense. If you wanted to build a core defense, let's say you're just thinking about let's not talk about offense. If you were just trying to build a defense around something that could become one of the best defenses in the NBA, putting Walker Kessler and Jaren Jackson Jr. together is a great way to do it. Another element to think about this is just how well Utah has managed their draft assets. And just with the Minnesota Timberwolves, Utah has turned now Rudy Gobert into Walker Kessler, Keontae George, and now Jaren Jackson Jr. If you had said we would like to trade Rudy Gobert to any team that had a grouping of Keontae George, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Walker Kessler, they would laugh at you. That is 3 starters, and Keontae George might be an all-star next year. This team is going to be really good next year, not this year. We're going to see heinous, despicable, war crime level tanking this year, and I love it. I'm excited about it. You could see the biggest swing in a team standing from start to finish next year. Utah could be the worst team in the Western Conference when all is said and done this season and jump to literally the number 1 seed if everything worked out perfectly just next year. That's how interesting this is going to be to end the season and how good they will be. If you are looking to get season tickets, now is the time, because Utah is going to be awesome next year. They are going all in, obviously, and they've used their free agency money exceptionally. This was the big question I had for next season, is how Utah was going to use this free agency space. Well, basically, this proves that Utah is doing free agency now. This is the move, because next year they were going to try to find something, but it's harder to just sign someone outright. Jaren Jackson Jr. just signed his extension, so Utah gets him for 3 full years starting next year. That's incredible use of free agency space. And on top of this, Utah has restricted free agency rights to Walker Kessler. So if any team puts puts out an offer for Kessler, Utah can match it. If Utah gets Kessler on a reasonable contract this year, this will be an absolute masterclass by Ainge Squared, Justin Zanuck, and Ryan Smith. Incredible stuff by this front office. I've been critical. I've also been positive. Today we're being positive. This was great stuff. Now don't make me regret it. Ainge Squared. Tank it right. The most winning thing you can do right now is lose. The best winning mentality now for you as a team is lose. Rain down the losses. Rain them down on all of us. We want them. Bring the L's. I've never wanted an L more in my life than this. And I want multiple L's. More than I ever experienced in high school. And there were a lot. But I want more now. More now than ever. All right, guys, that's it. Incredible trade for the Utah Jazz. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. You want to subscribe now. Things are only going to get better. If you haven't already, do it. I'll talk to you next time.